Hello, and welcome to the Upward Slopes podcast. My name is Katie Hemphill, and taking a nice sigh of excited relief as I sit down here to record our first official podcast, episode 1 here. I am so excited to bring this to you. I have so many stories to share, conversations I'm excited to hold, and really just sitting in an open space of possibility for where this show gets to take us together. And I thought it would be fun to kick things off with my favorite practice. Inviting you here to take a moment to check in with yourself. So as I check in with myself, I am buzzing and a little bit nervous. My thoughts are a little bit getting in the way, like, oh, am I going to say the right thing? Is anybody going to listen to this? And in my own space here, I have those thoughts kind of swirling around, but dropping down a little bit deeper into, my body, into the different felt sensations, all the different things I'm experiencing here in my space. Again, feeling that kind of alive, buzzing. I want to put the term, again, excitement to it, maybe a little bit of nervousness, but that's me. So just taking a moment to check in with you. What's alive over there in your space, in your experience in this moment in time? And maybe you're multitasking here, so maybe you're driving a car or walking around cleaning the house, otherwise engaged and listening at the same time. And if that's the case, the practice is still very similar, just checking in. What's alive for you in this moment? Perhaps feeling your feet on the ground, whatever surface is holding you in this space, in this moment. And from here, once again, what's alive? What's alive for you right now? So I wanted to kick things off with this practice because I personally have found it to be the most powerful, life-changing practice that I myself have cultivated. And I've done a lot of work to get in a routine of checking in. What's alive right here, right now? And it's something I'm going to invite you to do somewhat routinely as we hold conversations, as you listen to my voice, the other voices that come through this space, really being in this practice of, yes, what do they have to say? And what does that move in me? What impact does that have on my felt experience in this moment? So shifting out of this practice space and into our conversation today, I wanted to spend some time laying a foundation for the Upward Slopes podcast. What are a couple of the big stories behind the name, the meaning here? And of course, what's at play? What are some of the themes, starting to put some words to the themes that we get to play with in this space? So I thought we would start by putting some words to the idea that really emerged for me all the way back in 2020, and then really marinating in this space, sitting with this idea when I then officially founded the Upward Slopes platform in 2021. So, this idea, it had everything to do with this desire to explore this idea of progress. Progress in this way that had been taught to me as I'd spent my first 26 or so years on this planet. So, progress, that is this upward trajectory that we carry with us in our mind's eye as we walk through life, making decisions about where we put our attention and our energy, what we want to accomplish, what problems we want to solve, or what goals we want to achieve. And this questioning of what we think of as progress, meaning what we put value on and declare worthy of something that we want to work towards. Well, this questioning of it all really came to life at this particularly interesting time in our history. And this is what I want to talk about today as I start to introduce topics that I really want to get into during our time on this show. So that's what we get to talk about today, but real quick, before jumping into that, I want to spend some time more thoroughly introducing myself, as I know we are just kicking things off here in this space, and whether or not you're new to me and my work, I want to make sure we're all on the same page here. So once again, my name is Katie Hemphill, and so here's the thing. I have a really hard time defining succinctly who I am and what I do. My world has shifted drastically in the past few years, and while this story is what really sets the foundation for everything I do, it kind of makes it difficult to, again, say very succinctly what I have on offer. But doing my best here, what I teach today is what I like to speak of as an embodied way of living. And in a way, what this means is this ability to walk through life being really in tune with the whole of ourselves as human beings. So what this looks like for most of us is this getting out of our heads. Most of us modern human beings were brought up in a world where the human mind is what is really valued, what we could say is put up on a pedestal. And there's a lot of really good reasons for this, because the human mind is quite remarkable. But there's a problem. There's a really big problem that I've been staring at for years now. And it has everything to do with what happens when we get stuck here. When we get stuck up in our heads and live life disconnected from the rest of ourselves. So we'll get to talk more in depth about that later on in this episode, but I wanted to jump to this other part of who I am. So, sometimes I like to refer to myself as a recovering scientist and engineer. And it's not to hate on these disciplines, not at all whatsoever. I have so much love and the utmost respect for science and engineering and technology and so much of what people who have been hard at work in these fields have brought into this world. What I do wish to speak to is what happens when we live fully in this world that is the realm of the human mind put up on a pedestal, where we tend to work to understand the world and better the world by breaking things apart, by breaking the world apart and breaking the world down into its rudimentary components. And as we do this, calling upon this information to build the world back up again in a way that we tell ourselves is better than it was before. And again, it's not to demonize this process. There is so much utility, so many problems that have been solved. There's so many ways our lives have been made easier because of this process. But again, what happens when we live here entirely? What happened to me, my own self, my own experience, as I spent each moment of every day working to understand the world by breaking it apart, breaking it down, and believing that I had the power to build it back up again in a way that my mind understood to be better. Well, what happened bringing this conversation back to this space that I found myself in during the pandemic days, a space where I was looking out on a world that indeed had been broken apart and was at a very extreme level breaking down with this enormous and painful destruction. And it's not just about the world around me that I was witnessing. What may have been even more powerful at this point in time was my own internal world breaking down, my own inferno rising up as I finally broke down after years and years and years of living my life trying to understand life and control life based solely on what I believed to be the all-powerful human mind. So at this point, let's see if I can give some more words to exactly what I mean by this way we live life fully up in our heads, putting the mind on a pedestal as we tell ourselves this story that we're living out this great progression of technology and the betterment of our world, again, through these powerful creations and problem-solving tools of the human mind. And I think to do that, I don't even have to sit here and speak a whole bunch of words to it, but maybe it's better to ask that we each spend a moment bringing into our own fields of awareness the world that we perceive ourselves to live in, to take a moment to think about the way that technology plays out in our lives. And And maybe you want to consider some of the really spectacular aspects of technology. For example, in this moment, you get to be listening to my voice, which I'm recording at a different point in time and space, but it is conveniently brought to you probably through your cell phone that holds the power to do a number of just incredible, like truly incredible tasks. And also, it's no secret how harmful these devices can be. So really just a moment to go through this practice, to bring to mind what we would call advancements, right? Maybe those are advancements in technology or medicine or anything else that we, call upon as progress, and to bring it into your field of awareness with, this open curiosity of what really does this bring into my life. And when we do this practice, I think what we tend to find is, again, like, yeah, technology and these other quote unquote advancements truly do bring these amazing benefits to our lives. And also, there's always a cost. There's always a cost. I've spent my professional engineering career in quality engineering in the medical device industry. And it's in this space that I have been immersed, daily in the negative parts of what these technologies can bring. And again, it's not to demonize technology in any way, but it's to bring into our consciousness this opening to like maybe advancements in technology or advancements in any other creation that I would say is coming purely out of the world of the human mind. Like maybe this progress isn't so spectacularly linear in this upward projection that we think it is. So one more engineering story here, and then I promise we're going to go back into the world of embodied living. But it's this memory that pops up into my field of consciousness all the time when I think about, these limited ways that we have of understanding the world we live in. And I remember being in my Physics 2 class and, learning about electricity and magnetism, which is, it's kind of like that point in engineering school where it's like everything you learned that made sense in terms of this world you thought you were living in just kind of explodes. And you realize that, maybe our world does work a little bit more like magic than we thought it does. Now I have to be careful as I say that, because magic, yes, magical in this way that, like, yes, there are still guiding forces at play, and we can still try to create these structured understandings of how things work together. And also, it works in a way, right? Our reality, this world we live in, works in these ways that just blows open the human mind, like blows it to bits, as everything we thought was how the world works, like, turns out there's just so much more. So I'm in my electricity and magnetism class, and the professor is teaching these, intense concepts, and us students are all trying to wrap our heads around all of it. And what he starts to show us is that, we've been taught to think in a certain way. We've been taught to see the world with a certain framework. We've been taught to, to be specific here, to plot the world on a simple XY two-dimensional axis where at any one point in time we can really only think about two different variables in relationship to each other. And because of this, we just really oversimplify things, and we just really reduce the world into these frameworks where our understanding is so limited. And then when it comes time to bring in something new, something more real, something more complex, we just get so stuck. But the thing is, it doesn't have to be as hard as we might think it is. What we need so often is actually really just a shift in perspective, a change in the framework that we've constructed, because it sure served some utility for an understanding of the world at one point in time. But now, as we're entering into a new space and are being asked to walk through life with a more skillful, a truer understanding, what is required is a shift in the axis, a change of the framework, a shift of our perspective. So while I've been talking to you, I've been thinking about this little image that came to me many years ago. And what it is an upward arrow, right? A straight line in the XY coordinate grid that is pointing upward, this upward projection, and it's linear. And it's what I thought our world was, that we are on this path of progress, and it's my job to go out into the world and become a scientist and engineer so that I could understand the world and solve problems and contribute to this linear progress of it all. And what I learned, what was hammered into me as I sat alone in my apartment in a city month after month during the pandemic days, is that, like, damn, guys, this world is not at all what I thought it was. And what I see, what I saw then and what I continue to see, is it's that this clinging to these constructs that we have created, these oversimplified ideas of what our world is. And it's these limitations that are created when we exist fully in the realm of the human mind. This is what is bringing us into these spaces that so many of us are waking up to the realization that we just cannot live this way anymore. This story of progress, that we're headed in such this linear upward trajectory that it's complete bullshit. And actually, well, yes, we do have so many beautiful creations and we are solving so many problems. Yes, that is true. And also, we are actively, actively destroying our planet as we know it. We are making ourselves sick. We continue to witness, experience violence to horrific degrees. And it's like, what are we supposed to do? How do we have any power to fix it? How do we have any power to make the change that we need? And it's this sort of thinking that we do in this way we've been taught to understand our world and solve problems that I have come to see as something that is not going to get us out of the situation we've created. That is, yes, as powerful as technology and science and engineering problem solving can be, it's not what is truly going to help us to the degree that we need to be helped. And what we do need, what we can call upon in the space that we can enter into, is only going to happen if we shift our perspective. If we, shall I very dorkily say, change up our coordinate grid, think about things in a different way. And I say that, think about things, like, yes, that's part of it, but it's also inherently part of the problem, because what I'm speaking to is less about thinking and more about being able to actually fully immerse ourselves in our human experience, be fully tuned into our embodied experience as we walk through this world is what I see as really the only chance we have of walking out of this deep, deep hole that we are digging for ourselves and for our ecosystems, and let's be honest, for our planet as a whole. Whew, I am getting fired up, guys. And what I mean by that is I feel my heart start to break open as this fire, what I have come to call this sensation that feels like fire ripping through me when I start to speak to deep, painful truths. And with that, just, an invitation to check in with yourself. Again, it's a practice that I really invite you to call upon, yes, as you are here listening to this show, and also as you're walking through any space you find yourself in, is this simple checking in. What is alive as the sensations, the feelings, the emotions, the thoughts that are arising in your field of consciousness as your own experience and the practice. And this is the important part, you guys, because this is what we get wrong, is that the practice is to hold an awareness of it. Sometimes I like to say an open curiosity of just what's here. What's here? And what we often get wrong is that we think that what's here is directly tied to a truth that we have to act upon immediately. And sure, like sometimes that's the case, but most of the time, what may be more skillful is to be in this awareness, be in this open curiosity. What is alive for me when Katie talks about climate change and the fact that she believes that we humans, via our actions, are actively destroying the planet? What's alive in me? Is it outrage? Is it fear? Is it pain? What's here? And the thing that happens over time, yes, this is a practice that is so much so a function of time. It's something we get to be in practice of regularly as we get to understand ourselves. We get to understand what our emotions are telling us. We get to understand if the experience that's arising in us that's telling us to go engage in an action is actually skillful, is actually serving ourselves, our communities, our ecosystems, or is it a programmed response that is just going to add more noise to an already very, very noisy world? And I think that's a good doorway to go back to this point in space and time that I've spoken to now a couple times, this really big turning point for my own self, the pandemic days. Again, these days where I got to spend day after day, week after week, month after month in solitude as I looked out on a world that in so many ways was burning. And I got to look within my own self, in my own internal world, which itself was burning. And as I was here, being in this space where I could look out at it all and just perceive so much noise. Like, we respond to big challenges with so much noise, so many opinions, so many ideas, so much emotion. And yeah, some of that might serve, but most of it is really just that noise. So I start to ask myself, with this engineering brain of mine, like, how can we find the clearest, most skillful signal through all of this noise? And if I could quickly, in a matter of a few moments, give you that answer, if the answer was that simple, I think this world would be a very different place. But for starters, because we are just here kicking things off in episode 1, bringing us back to this practice. can we be in a practice of awareness? Less so being reactive and in motion and needing to do things, to fix things, and more so holding space, simply holding space for what is alive here? What is alive? Yes, what is alive out there, happening around me, happening to me, and also what is alive within me, walking through life, holding space for both. Try it out. Try it out. Get in a routine practice of this. And if you need more specific or in-depth practices, I have so many. It's my favorite thing to teach, and there will be links in the show notes for how you can join me in practice. But if nothing else, just this simple practice I have offered you today, try it out. See what happens. Let me know. So as we wrap this up, I have, first a few asks, and then I will leave us with one more note, a little something to help us with our practice as we go on in our various walks of life. So first of all, once again, just extending a big thank you for being with me here all the way through the very end with this very special episode 1 for this space that really means so much to me. And if you have enjoyed what you're hearing today, if something has been sparked in you, maybe a thread that I raised that didn't quite wrap up, maybe something that I spoke to for a little bit and you want me to deepen into, please reach out, leave a comment, send me an email. This sort of space works so much better if it's not just me sitting here alone in a room chatting away with what I think could be helpful for you to hear, but it helps so much to build engaging conversation if you let me know. Let me know, what's sparked in you, what's alive in you, something that I can go a little bit deeper into in the future. And also with that topic of building community, if you have not yet, make sure you hit subscribe. Make sure that you are on the Upward Slopes newsletter. This podcast is only one part of a much larger platform. I am on Instagram, on YouTube. I am creating programs. I am writing over on Substack. There's so much at play here. And if you go into the show notes, I will link you to all of these. If you go to upwardslopes.com/ourpathforward and sign up for the newsletter, that is the best space where you can be connected to everything that is happening across these different platforms that I have created for you to engage in whatever way you prefer. Again, whether that's through listening, through watching a video, through reading, so many different things at play. Okay, so there's one thread that I wrote down. I made a note to make sure to say a few words to this, and we're here at the end and closing down, so I don't have time to put a lot of words to this, but I do want to bring it up here, and it's this this point that is, shall I phrase it as a question? Where is it that you are putting your energy and your attention? So let me say it again. Where are you putting your energy and your attention? I think this is one of the most powerful questions that we can hold space for. And the invitation is that as you walk through life, to hold an awareness. Again, this theme today that's holding awareness of where are you putting your energy, where are you putting your attention, and this ask if you want to engage in this practice, that is, can you spend a little bit more time putting your attention on what is alive in your own internal experience? And with this, being in this space, start to cultivate an understanding of what is going on with your energy. Is your energy being taken away? Is your energy being sapped because your attention is in places that maybe aren't the most skillful? Is your energy being activated in ways that maybe you're not okay with, or maybe you hold a lot of curiosity about? Just, a place to play in, And of course, if you have any questions, want any deeper guidance with that, please reach out. It's something we'll get to talk about in greater depth in the future, because, we just have this whole new platform where we can sit together, talk it out, talk about all these things that are held in my own curiosity. And again, just that quick note that if there's something being sparked in you, please reach out, let me know so that I can speak more words to that topic. I thank you again once more so much for listening today, and I will catch you in the next episode.